Welcome to PhD with Women on IT, Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD Positivity Hack Delivered will be by Vladlena DuFresne. The topic of today's discussion is Navigating the Next Economy Startup. PhD episode 37 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my motto, and empathy is critical when you are navigating the next economy startup. Vladena, where in the world are you today?
Hello, Beata. Thank you for having me. I come to you from Washington State in the USA. So Camas,
That's
Washington is my current location.
That's wonderful. The world as we know it is over, and though the pain this has caused is very real, it now opens opportunities for reinvention most of us couldn't even imagine just 2 years ago. What makes this moment so unique is not only that we are collectively experiencing a simultaneous global pandemic alongside a massive economic, an overdue cultural, and historical awakening, but we are also standing at the front end of an astronomical shift in how the world will work. Crises can be both destructive and creative forces for innovation. In this live stream discussion, we will be discussing with Vladena her latest startup, ROGO. Recognizing that COVID has brought urban life to a halt, stalling the chance encounters, face-to-face exchanges, and creative networks that help make cities such powerful engines of innovation, Vladena is building an app that enables you to rent items from others near you at a low cost. Additionally, it is a platform that enables you to be a lender of your items to generate a side income. A great idea is only the beginning. Let's learn how Vladlena navigates the road ahead with faith and resilient optimism. So, Vladlena, I know that you started your idea in 2014, was it, or 2017?
2017. Yes. Yes.
Exactly. So then you had some hoops. I mean, the marriage is not really a hoop, it's a happy day, right?
Yes. Yes. It started in 2017. And that's when I say started, that's really when the idea came to me. And it really excited me. And so I started writing out just a deeper explanation of how it would work and how it would function. And that's when I started to think this is something that could be something. And so I started reaching out to people in the app space and getting their feedback and getting quotes on how much will it cost. And that was the beginning. So it took a little while longer for me to actually get to the place where I committed and went all in. That was actually this year.
Well, I have to say that there is a reason why you're here, and that reason is episode 28 with Sam Akhmedov, who was talking about the future of voice technology. And he said there is an amazing woman that I think is a role model for many young females who are trying to start their entrepreneurial journey. And that's how we met, Vladlena.
Yes.
So you're definitely a role model for men as well as women. Tell me, how did you meet and how did you encounter some, and what was your journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we met in 2019, and I was reaching out looking for who will actually build the app, who can actually help me with this. I have a background in technology to some extent with coding, usability, but creating something of value I knew took a lot of skill, and I wanted to make sure it was the best. And that's when I found Jafton, and that's where Sam Akhmedov and I met. Is I reached out to them with interest in working with them to learn a little bit more about them. And we just hit it off. I mean, right off the bat, we connected, even though we were literally across the country. I'm in Washington. He was in New York at the time. And that's where the connection began. And I really understood and it was a gut feeling that I thought this is the right company for me. I just had that connection. And for us to actually begin working together, it didn't happen until a year later, but the connection continued to stay on track all through 2019. And then we finally did start working together in 2020.
That's an amazing story of joining forces together with some awesome team of developers. I wanted to ask you, because we talked about our discussion today, and you said that you had many moments in your life when you had your voice calling, or there was universe telling you something. Can you tell us how it impacted you?
Yes, I think specifically around this venture. So ROGO is the company that I had created, but before I actually committed to it, it started in 2017 where I had the idea and I got feedback. And then from there, I kept getting validation from personal experiences on this app would be a service in this situation or in that situation. And I would look around and see, is there anything else that's going on in the app space that is bringing this to life and is doing a really good job at it? And nothing was coming up. And that feeling, like you said, the universe, the calling that you have inside you, it didn't go away. It only got stronger. And it just validated that I'm called to do this and that I have what it takes to do this. And so it was just a matter of finding the right timing to commit to it. But I knew that it was something that was in store for me.
That's wonderful. Have you ever heard the phrase, if you do what's hard now, your life will become easy. But if you do what's easy now, your life will always be hard.
Yes.
Did it impact you in some way?
Yes, I have heard of that quote. And I think that's absolutely right. I mean, one of the biggest qualities, I think, of any successful person is work ethic. And I think the secret to it is finding joy in your work ethic, have it be something that satisfies you versus just drains you. And so I definitely agree with that. Work hard now, try to find joy along the way, but that is what's going to set your foundation so that life can be easier later on, not just for you, but for your family and for your networks.
So, Vladlena, you started the idea, you thought of how to join the dots, how to build that up, and then what? If there are some females out there who would like to start building their startup, what should they do to be successful or to reach at least the same level as you have now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I had the idea. I would say having the idea is just the first step. But like you said, I think even in the introduction, a great idea is only the start. So how do you execute that? And I would say, have confidence in yourself, have confidence in your ability to learn things. Knowledge is power. And the real secret is hard work ethic. It does come back to that because the idea begins, but then what follows is research. And there is so much research, not just on the idea, but on the legal aspect, marketing aspect, the startups field itself and all the terminology that comes with it. There is so much that you're going to have to learn to get to the next step. What I would say is be kind to yourself and break it down. Do it one step at a time. That's the way to move forward. I think when we are thinking too many things, we get overwhelmed, and that's where we panic and think, I don't want to do this, or I can't do this. I would say break it down, make it small, do it well, and then move on to the next thing. I think that is really what would bring success.
As my favorite role model, Cindy Gallop, says, micro actions is key. Tiny chunks of action that is easy to do every day. You start with something small. It's much easier than if you get overwhelmed with messy head and not real clear strategy. So
Yes.
you built your clear strategy and then you approached some investors. How
Mhm.
did it go for you, Vladlena?
Yeah. So one of the things I really didn't expect, I guess, is how much I have to do public speaking. And that can mean even to an investor that is, you have the floor, you're presenting. And that was something that I didn't enjoy doing. I loved the creative side. I loved the analytics of figuring out how a business works. But doing the presentation itself was extremely nerve-wracking for me. And I think that your attitude of saying, I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to learn from this experience is the best way to keep moving forward and getting better at it. So I definitely had a few investor meetings where I was really nervous. I maybe talked a little bit too long or didn't get to the point fast enough. But as you keep going and evaluating what you have already done, you start to find your rhythm and it becomes easier. So that was kind of the investor journey for me.
Would you compare it to meeting with, I don't know, recruitment agency or a recruiter or employer, or how is it different?
Yeah, I think it's different. It is similar. I would say it's similar. And what's great is I did work in talent acquisition. So I knew a lot of interview things in terms of how to conduct yourself and what an employer is looking for. However, what was different is in an interview, you are being asked questions and then you respond. For investor meetings, there is some part of back and forth, but when you're presenting your idea, it's really just you speaking and sharing details and
Hmm.
pausing. Do you have any questions? And then you keep moving forward. So it's a little bit less back and forth and a little bit more of spotlight on you, which for me, it made me feel more vulnerable and a little bit more pressure. And so in that way, it was a little bit different.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Not everyone wants to admit to being vulnerable. We've got a question from Olga Vasina. Olga, lovely to see you again. Ladies, great to see PhD back. We just have somebody flying over us. Hi, Beata. Hi, Vladlena. Great point about work ethic, Vladlena. But what percentage is perspiration and what percentage is inspiration?
Oh my goodness, that is a great question. Wow, I wish I had specific numbers for you. I would say it changes depending what stage you're at. So when it was just the beginning, it was probably 70% inspiration and excitement. And the idea was that 30%. Then as I got more serious, it started to even out. It was both inspiration, maybe 50-50 with hard work. And I feel like it moves in that same pattern. Now it's more of that commitment and to the inspiration. So it kind of becomes less inspiration as you keep going and a lot more about work ethic. But there are times where the inspiration will spike. So I wish I could have a really strict numbers for you, but I think it definitely changes on what stage you're at. I hope that
Mm,
helps you.
I hope so too. I would also add, judging from many startups that I encountered along the way, I used to run the mission to run a startup community, and we had some mentorship programs developed specifically for them. And the biggest problem was actually that inspiration side, because many people are trapped in the idea, oh, they are not creative. Whereas we are born creative, we just need to look around. And as you said at the beginning, you need a lot of inspiration, but then perspiration is taking over. And really, once you have that clear idea on mind, it's much easy to be persistent and keep that tenacity going.
Completely agree with that. Yep.
Good. Vladlena, we've got some great quotation. Changes depends on what stage you're at. I would like to also move on to your life's calling. You said you were leaning into your calling. Does it mean that you were kind of dependent on what universe brings you. I mean, you started it in 2019. I presume then lockdown started. How was it going for you?
Yeah, I would definitely say it felt like a calling. I had worked in legal before, in operations, and then talent acquisition. But the idea came earlier. And so for me, I think there was just, that universal element where I would see situations where I thought the idea would come back and the name ROGO would just keep coming up and, ROGO it, just rent it from someone near you, ROGO it. And so for me, that was, I think, the inspiring part, was seeing that this was such a need. This is something that can be a service. And it was exciting for me. I think I really enjoyed looking into what it takes and figuring out a business strategy for it. I would say the timeline, it wasn't planned to happen around COVID. Obviously, no one really knew that that was going to be coming on the horizon. I did initially think I would jump all in 2019, but I had some life situations that changed in a really good way. I actually had met my now husband and we got engaged. We were planning a wedding. And so that also was during COVID. So that was an experience in itself. But once we got married, I knew it was already a few months and I knew that I was going to make the commitment to work on ROGO. I just needed to know and have the peace on when is the right time. And so for me, faith is just such a huge element of my life. And so that was a huge way that I would journal or pray and really try to seek that clarity and ask specific questions. And so for me, that's, my God, my faith. For you might be something else, but having those specific questions and seeking clarity, I think, is what really helped me make that commitment.
So why ROGO? What's the secret behind the name?
The secret behind the name. So the idea really came because I was working in downtown Portland. It's a city atmosphere, and I had wanted to I have a background in photography, but I was working in downtown. I didn't have a camera on me, and I had a friend that wanted to go and take photos at this event, and we couldn't do it because my camera would have been over 2 hours to go get with traffic. And so I just thought, wouldn't it be great if there was an app where you could just rent on the go? So if something comes up and you need something, you can rent on the go. And so rent on the go is really the inspiration for ROGO.
Okay, so you had that inspiration, and then what stage is your startup at the moment?
Yeah, so currently we've finished with the prototype of the app. Excuse me. And so we finished that. We're going through testing of the app. And so that's a really large focus for us right now, is just ensuring that the app is working smoothly, there's no glitches, that everything is operating as we want it to. And on the other side, I am still continuing to raise funds through doing investor meetings. And the third element that's really in focus right now is focusing on the marketing strategy and the operations for when we launch.
And are you doing the marketing strategy yourself, or did you invite somebody from the outside? How big is your company, your startup?
Yeah, so right now, full-time employee is me. I do contract work, so my developers, designers, I have an attorney, CPA. So I do have a lot of consultants that I do reach out to. And for the marketing side, I did create a high-level marketing strategy plan very early on when I was working on the business model. But right now that we're getting closer to launch, I really was feeling overwhelmed with, well, I know the big picture of what I want to do. How can I break it down? I was struggling with that a little bit. So I actually did find a marketing consultant, and we've been working together to really break down. So if we want to do this, when do we want to do it? How are we going to measure it? And so that's the implementation element that we're in right now for marketing.
Fantastic. And you're the face of that brand. I've seen you on Instagram, very active, and thank you very much for mentioning today's topic and today's live chat. So I wanted to ask you, how easy or how difficult it is for you to be the frontliner of your brand?
That's another great question. I would say, I think both. I think you just have different days. Some days you are confident and you know exactly what you're doing and why you're here and how you're going to solve challenges. And then other days when you feel overwhelmed or you start to feel a little bit of doubt, those are the days that are harder. And you have to keep pressing in, and you have to, again, I think one of the biggest things I do is I break it down to smaller pieces and just take care of it one by one so that I don't feel overwhelmed. So I'd say I love it, but there's definitely days that are more of a struggle.
Thank you very much for saying that, because you praised your epiphany of hard work, just kind of Eastern European hard work, and you will reach the stars. That's a saying actually in Poland as well. We've
Yes.
got some great comments, and we've got a question. Olga Vasina is terrific, saying a terrific answer. Thank you very much. And let's ROGO.
Let's ROGO.
Marianne Madeira is saying, hi, Vladlena, can't wait to use ROGO in the Philippines or all over the world. By the way, you're very inspiring and relatable. Marianne, thank you so much. That's lovely to hear. So,
Thank you.
you're talking about the hard work ethic and how important it is in your life. Does it always pay off? I mean, sometimes we might be overdoing it, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, well, I don't know if we're overdoing it. I think we can overthink things. Maybe we start to add too much to our plate. I think that's where, and what's great is this goes back to your interview with Sam Akhmedov, but focus and clarity is really important. So if you're going to be working hard on something, make sure you know what your intention is and get clear on that so that you're not starting to really just dry yourself out or burn yourself out. You really want to make sure that you're taking it in stages that you're able to commit to. But is work ethic ever a bad thing? I'd say no. I think one of the quotes that I really love is how you do something or how do you do anything is how you do everything. So whenever I do anything, I like to give my full work ethic. If I'm talking to a friend about a problem, I try to give her my whole heart and my whole attention. If I'm talking to family or if I'm working, as an assistant, I want to answer the phones as best as I can. I do bring that energy and that work ethic, I think, to every area of my life. So for me, I think it's worth it.
Definitely. I remember the first time I heard this famous mantra in the startup world, done is better than perfect. And I had this cringy moment of, done is better than perfect, because I always stray for perfection. So how was it for you? I mean, did you suffer? I mean, your internal perfection, Vladlena, suffered with the not so perfect finished product?
Yes, I definitely do. I think because of the work ethic, you naturally want everything to go really smooth and perfect. But I think what helped me is, I watch so many podcasts and interviews on other founders. And especially, I think what's inspiring is seeing female founders and hearing their journey, hearing the ups and downs of what they went through helped me understand that that's part of it. That's part of getting to your goal, is going through the messy things. It is having an unfinished product, and that your product usually evolves too. So sometimes you might think you're starting in one direction and then you land somewhere else. And so there's such an element of, and I don't think it's like done, but it's like good versus perfect is a concept, right? But if you can make something good and it's a value, I think that's where it's more inspiring. So for me, yes, I think leave perfection at the door. It's really just a concept in our minds. So do your best work and be proud of that, and then learn from it. It's not going to be perfect. You release it, and then I am already planning to do this. We're going to release the app. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a value. But from there, we're going to ask people, what do you want to see? What could we do to make it better? So growth and progress is already part of the plan.
Fabulous answer. Thank you so much, Vladlena. We are great. That's a great segue to the next question about failure, because I'm sure you experienced some failures. Maybe was it with investors, or was it with your startup pitch, or was it with your, I don't know, team members? Can you tell us some of the experiences you had with failures?
Absolutely. I would say the investor meetings is definitely an area where I thought, failure. I definitely started to switch from failure to lesson and using that terminology, because for me, that's more inspiring. And for me, it just means you learn from it and you take it with you to the next stage. But within investor meetings, early on when I started, I was so passionate about my idea. I had the business plan mapped out, but I didn't have the investment portion mapped out. I didn't really know what to say in terms of, well, if you invest in my company, here's what you get and here's how it will work. I didn't have that. And so for me, it was kind of a panic moment. And I thought, oh my goodness. So I was kind of just trying to figure out, well, what do you think? And that's not the way you want to go into an investor meeting. You really want to know, what are you asking for? How will it work? And then have that conversation. So I actually ended up pausing investor meetings. And when I realized there's something I need help to work through, don't let that be a jab at your ego. Take all the help you can get. For me, I sought out a startup consultant, and we worked through the terminology for investors and how everything would work and how the math and formulas would work. So I took time to pause before I continued investor meetings to make sure I had that piece put together.
Great. So you had some great mentors along the way. Who would you say was a great inspiration for you? Was it somebody you met face to face, or was it via Zoom, or who was it?
Inspiration for what exactly?
For preparing your startup to not so perfect, but done.
Okay. Well, this one's, I think, more of a funny one, because I think what really helped me start to move away from it needs to be perfect was a book. So it was actually an author, Elizabeth Gilbert. The book was called Big Magic. And it's all about creativity. She's a writer, so she definitely had an element where she was talking to creatives and writers, but it really goes to anyone, an entrepreneur. As humans, we create, so we can all relate to it in some way. And in that book, she just talked about, you don't need to put that pressure on yourself for it to be perfect or whatever that might mean to you, or what will they think. Do it for you. And start to practice in small ways. And so for me early on, that was doing it in small ways, which was just posting things up, creating something on Instagram and posting it, not overthinking it. Usually I do. And I think, how are others going to see this? And I just thought, let's just make it. Let's make it authentic, and let's not worry about the end result. And so I kind of was coaching myself to get more comfortable with releasing something. As long as it's a service and authentic, I can be proud of that.
Fabulous. So you talked about the research and how important it was to prepare yourself for the presentation. Can you tell us what kind of research you've done? Was it some sitting in the library, or was it mainly using what is available? Who is your biggest competitor?
Yeah, I would say a mixture of things. So one of the ways is really watching YouTube videos. YouTube videos are a great way to do research. So when it came to certain elements of the startup, sometimes I would read articles, sometimes I would read books, sometimes I would watch YouTube videos or podcasts. So it was different types of resources that I was looking into, but it is something you have to do. I think one of the biggest areas where research came into play was the business plan. So making sure that I'm looking into, standard business practices, also looking at the competition. But then the really And that was more natural to me. That was more intuitive to me. The area where I really had to apply myself and struggle through the learning process was the startup terminology. So venture capital, Series A, Series B, convertible notes, safes, how do they work? And, all that terminology was really where it was so overwhelming, but I had to figure it out. And so for that specific portion, I would read an article and I would write notes, and then I would say, can I say this back? Do I really understand it? I would then talk to my husband and say, let me explain this to you. Tell me if what I'm saying is actually making sense to you, because the end goal is I would have to explain these things in investor meetings, and you want to make sure your investors hear what you're saying and understand it. And so I would even practice it with people, but that part did take a lot of time. Like I mentioned, I even got a startup consultant to help coach me through it as well.
Great. So what is your husband's role in your startup? We've heard a lot about influence.
Yeah. Yes, he is a great influence. I think a funny story is it was maybe our second date, and I told him, by the way, I'm going to be starting a company. I kind of just wanted him to know what he's getting into. And so, and I mean, I think that response on the very first time I brought it up just says so much about him. He was all in. He was ready to support me if I had to travel or move or this. How do we make it work? So it was pretty funny because it was early on, but that type of character has maintained all the way through this. Me quitting my job, my full-time job with security, and him saying, I support you, go for it. When it came to certain stock market elements that I had trouble understanding or explaining, he has a background in financial advising, so he would help me understand those elements. He's even done some investor meetings with me as well. So he's been an amazing support, inspiration partner through the journey.
Bravo to your husband.
Yes. Thank you,
absolutely. So you said he was sitting through investor meetings. Is he part of your team, or he's just there to support you when you need, hold your hand?
That's a great question. So he's participated in some meetings, and he's, I would say, a crucial piece of helping with ROGO. For right now, his main focus is his full-time role. And so, but he is part of the team as an advisor, especially when it comes to the investment side.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for advising Vladlena to take her and hack the future with her. We have got some lovely comment from Trixie Lopez. Vladlena is an inspiration, naturally brilliant and beautiful. There you go, Vladlena.
Thank you, Trixie.
Inside out, I can say. So we found the title of the book, Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear, recommended by Vladlena, book by Elizabeth Gilbert. That's a great start if you want to build your startup. Vladlena, when is the project going to be launched? Because I'm sure we've heard that Trixie and Marianne is keen on using these.
Yes.
ROGO to go.
Yes, go, ROGO, go. That's what we like to say. It's inspiring. So we are looking to launch the first half of 2022. We're going to go through a pre-launch phase before the official. So we are eyeing, again, more of that earlier half of 2022, but specific timelines are still in the works. But what I would say is definitely go to our website, www.rogorent.com. And there you can subscribe for updates. So once we're ready to give real announcements on the date, the launch, promotions, things that are happening, you'll get that alert.
Great. So everybody, you can subscribe, but stay with us, because we are going to hug the future and talk about failure, startups, and let's go into Stress Toolbox. What is that for you?
I love this. So let me tell you this. It is so exciting to start a journey, and usually what you hear is the start and the end. The end, we sold the company, it all worked out, but we don't hear about the middle. And the middle is the key component to getting to that success at the end. And the middle is what's going to throw hardships at you. It'll throw stress at you. And it's really important that you understand what helps you manage that stress. So for me, Beata, you asked about the Stress Toolbox. I
Yeah.
actually wrote on my whiteboard, and then later I typed it out on different methods that I cope with stress. Because you might think going on a walk is helpful, but if you're in a situation where you don't have that opportunity, what's another method? Because when you're stressed, sometimes trying to think what's going to calm you down, you come to a blank. So I wrote out a whole list of things so that if I'm stressed, I can just look at it and think to myself, I can do this one right now. And so it takes away the brain power in the moment of stress of trying to figure out, what do I do? You go exactly to your toolbox and you figure out, this is something I can do right now. And so that's something I use to help me manage stress.
That's a very useful toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
So, Vladlena, we've got some lovely comment from Olga who says, love the wedding pics. You make a great couple. That's very kind of you, Olga. Olga is also asking, what rounds have you raced to date and how was the experience getting to go, ROGO?
Yes, that's great. So I'm in my first round. So this is really the seed or family and friends round. Really, it's more so community. And I've raised just a little over 90,000 so far. And the experience has been, I think, incredibly growing. I feel like I had an investor once where we had a few meetings before he came on board, but he would just say, every time I meet with you, it's like meeting a new version of you, because each time I'm learning something from my meeting, or I'm learning a terminology, or I'm starting to explain things better. And so I start showing up, I think, more confident and more capable. And so the experience has been, I'd say, both a little bit difficult emotionally, but also the end result is a stronger version of me.
Mm. So you also talk about the letter to myself. What is that? What does it encapsulate?
Yeah, so that is one of the options on my Stress Toolbox. And the letter to myself, that is something I wrote when I was feeling great about ROGO, and I thought, I know I have days where I feel low or I feel uncertain. And so I wrote a letter from me to myself for those days of doubt. So it's really something that essentially goes like, I know you're struggling, but you are here for a purpose. You have a vision. You are capable of doing the hard things. Divine opportunities will open for you at the exact right time. Stay faithful, stay committed. So it's really just an encouragement letter from me to myself on those days of doubt.
Mm. And does it help? I mean, if you have only one letter, or do you need to have more letters, or is there anybody who could write a letter to yourself and show you love, dedication, and a little bit of token of appreciation, however you call it?
Yes, I would say I've actually used it and it did help. I remember I thought the same thing when I was writing it. I heard about someone else doing it and I thought, okay, I'll try it, but we'll see if it works. And I remember having a day where I was just feeling overwhelmed by what I had to accomplish that day. And reading that letter just rooted me and grounded me in the present. Because another big thing that I remind myself is, don't think long term, think about how you can be successful today. And so sometimes you start to panic because you think next week or next year or 5 years from now, and if you don't have the answers, it can get a little bit scary. And so my letter reminds me, focus on what success looks like today. And if you do that every day, you really do find your way to success.
Great. And failure, you may be disappointed if you fail, but if you are doomed if you don't try, as Beverly Seals said once. So you are very rooted in the practical side. It's a research, it's a hard work, it's dedication, and willing to commit for a long journey. You mentioned also the fact that you are planning to launch next year. What if we are going to experience another meltdown, and let's say economy is going to be looking even worse than it is now. I mean, is there a plan B for Vladlena?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that we're launching for ROGO is we're starting it. So you have to start in small stages. It helps you understand where your marketing dollars are going. It helps you understand what market you're serving. So we are starting with the events category. And the thing that I learned is even a pandemic can't stop love. So weddings are still happening. Events, baby showers, birthday parties, they're still happening. Even if it's smaller groups, people still want to celebrate life. And I think that's the big thing that we want to encourage is don't forget to celebrate life. Things can be dark. They can be unexpected. But hopefully ROGO is the thing that can help you remember that you can celebrate life. You don't have to spend a ton of money on it. And so for us, that was a strategic category to launch with because pandemic or no pandemic, we're still living life and we still need to find ways to celebrate it and enjoy it. And the pandemic, personally, it can't take that away. Focus on the loved ones you have, focus on all the good things. And I think even with the economy side, business strategy wise, you have to be flexible. If something isn't working, don't say, I'm done. You just say, what part of this is not working? How can I apply it to the context we're in? And try that and see if that works. And if that doesn't work, try something else. So I think it's just being persistent and not giving up is another huge piece, especially during this pandemic.
Vladlena, I love the fact that you're saying that love is still happening. There is no way of stopping people loving each other and trying to celebrate these beautiful moments and appreciate these beautiful moments. So that's a lovely facet. So we had a couple of weeks ago, we had a meeting with Dr. Jackie Taylor, who was talking about sharing economy is over. It's time for empathy economy. Would you say it's part of sharing economy or empathy economy? How do you feel about your startup?
I'd say it's both. And that's a tough one. I don't think I think sharing economy is empathy economy to some extent too. But I don't think it's just one or the other. I think they work hand in hand. And for ROGO specifically, I think it is a sharing economy because if you're a lender, you're giving an item and you're getting money for that. As a borrower, you are being helped by the lender. So there's that empathy, there's that genuine heart element where you want to help others celebrate their life's events. And so for me, I think they go hand in hand.
Lovely. So you would say, well, this is analogy that my husband likes to use on his IPO vid, which is basically you're creating like an exchange, which is similar to, let's say, Airbnb. They don't have hotels, but they are still dealing in hotel business. You don't own these items, but you're just serving as an exchange platform to people who are interested in renting and lending. So
Correct.
how do you see your company going from strength to strength? You're planning now the seed funding. What is the next stage? What is the next stage for raising capital for ROGO?
Yeah, so the next stage right now, we are continuing to move forward. Initially, we had a minimum investment of $15,000. Now that's moved up to $20,000. Again, investors can invest more, but the minimum has changed. And we're just going to keep moving forward with raising capital. The goal is to enter a qualified financing round through venture capital or some other way later down the road. But for right now, the method has been working. I mean, technically, we've really only started raising funds in probably, I would say, June as a really specific date. So it's only been about 5-6 months. And to get to 90,000, that's pretty incredible. Something is working. So I'm going to keep going forward with the method I'm doing right now, partially because I now am a lot more comfortable with it. And because I have so much to prepare for with the launch and marketing, I know that I need to balance my time with how I'm raising funds. So if I was to start a completely new method of fundraising, I would have too much energy exertion there and on the marketing and launch side. So I have to make sure I have the energy for raising funds and a lot of energy for that marketing, operations, launch plan, all of those things as well.
How do you conserve your energy? What's the day-to-day activities of Vladlena?
Yeah, I would say I think morning routine for me is so huge. I start my day with a cup of coffee and I watch an inspirational message or a pastor speaking, and then I have time to journal and process whatever's on my mind. And then I write out what my intentions are for that day. And then that helps me navigate through what is a priority today. And so that helps me conserve my energy, because when I don't do that, everything becomes a distraction. This Instagram message, this email, this LinkedIn, this book, and I start to get too distracted. But when I have my morning ritual and I set my intentions, I know what's a priority. So I know when I should say no to things. And that is really helpful in conserving your energy.
Great. We wish you a very successful launching and conserving your energy and focusing on the love that is happening. We have got Olga saying lovely things, and we'll move to IPO. We'll move to Patrick soon. But well done, Vladlena. Keep rising while mixing the inspiration and perspiration.
Thank
And
you.
here is IPO in Patrick's opinion. Hooray, it's another exchange platform beyond the regulated financial world. Exchange Invest salutes your platform. Go, ROGO, go.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Very, very exciting times indeed. So in terms of your plan for the next year, it's all kushti. How do you convince people to still invest in you? I mean, many females are facing the struggle of, well, you got married, you probably are planning to have a family soon.
Yeah, I would say when you're doing an investor meeting and pitching your idea, the idea is one piece. The other piece is you. An investor is investing in the founder. So you really have to know what characteristics of mine can I really showcase to show this investor that I am the right person to bring this company to life. Because if anyone else has the idea, what is going to separate you from being that leader that actually goes, the distance for it? And so, yeah, for me, it's about continuing to develop my own skills, whether it's public speaking, whether it's analytics, whether it's terminology in startup or legal, and really showcasing that these are all strengths. And for an investor, I think that's what they want to see, is someone that's persistent in what their goals are and that they don't give up. So you really want to show them that no matter what comes my way, it could be COVID, it could be my, lack of knowing certain things because it's early, but I will show you that I will grow and that I will learn and I will overcome a challenge. I think, in the startup world, it's grit, being able to persist, being able to keep going, and being flexible. That's something that's really important, whether you're a woman or not. But I would say, as a woman, Beata, you mentioned, family or this or that. Kids are just another inspiration to do really well. And so for me, I want to work hard for my family. That's not a deterrent. And so, for me, own who you are. Be proud of that.
Bravo, sister. We've got a comment in pain. Hi, Vladlena. I better change my morning routine. Thank you so much, Vladlena.
Lifesaver. Honestly, for me, it not just changes my day. When I do it consistently, it will change your life. I believe that. So I wish you all the success and blessings in that journey.
Absolutely. And less pain, more love.
That's right.
So I have to mention the fact that I don't remember the name. I'm sorry, but I should actually write it down, because the founder of Bumble, which is a dating app specifically built
Yes.
with females in mind. She managed to raise capital while being 9, or was it 8 months pregnant.
Yeah,
So it's possible. The world is your
exactly.
oyster. Exactly.
I
And
think
as you said, love
mhm,
is still happening. So empathy economy has got a big role to play in that.
absolutely.
Yes, you wanted to say, Vladlena? Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, I think that's what it was. So when you mentioned about that Bumble CEO and how she made it work, I think that just goes back to say it's your mindset. So it's not that, oh, if you are pregnant or, oh, if you have this challenge, that you won't succeed. It's your mindset. What do you believe? So I think internal belief systems are another huge piece of what will separate you from others.
Hmm. There you go. Routine, mindset, that's all within your reach.
Yes.
Let's, and the stress toolbox is also useful
Yeah.
in the time of fear and doubt. Vladlena, what is your biggest struggle? I mean, we talked about fear, about your stress toolbox. Was there something that Vladlena wouldn't be able to do?
Hmm. I don't
There's
know.
nothing I see.
There's a lot. So here's the real answer. There's a lot I can't do. I think the power lies in knowing when you need help and asking for it. And when you can do that, you create a team and then you become unstoppable. It's not me that's unstoppable, but when you learn how to delegate, when you learn to bring the right people in, that's where you become unstoppable. So I would say with the right team behind you, with the right people giving you advice, that's where you can become unstoppable. But it takes a team.
Fantastic. Well, it's almost like a mic drop moment. I should probably go and dive into to that pool because there is
Yes.
nothing else to say. Exactly. You become unstoppable, knowing when you need help and be able
Yes.
to ask for it. And I've got my lovely team behind me who found me, who is the beautiful name who managed to raise funding. Whitney Wolfe, founder of Bumble. She made it, so can you. Whether you're pregnant, whether your kids are crying in the background, it's perseverance and preparation. Vladlena, it's time to move on to what do you believe are the top 5 soft skills or career driven females should have to launch a startup?
That's perfect because I think we talked about a few of them. I would say the first one is a work ethic. I do think it's important that no matter what role you're doing, whether it's in your most exciting dream job or if you're just starting out, I think it is so important that you really do give your full work ethic. And so I think that is step one. That's how you build the confidence. That's how you build a reputation as well. So not only does work ethic help you in your startup, but if you do it early on, you're building a reputation for yourself. And I'll tell you this, the reason I believe that I have been able to raise funds, within 5 to 6 months to this level is because I'm talking to people, especially with this round, it's more community, family, friends. They know my work ethic. They know my ability to critically think and put together solutions. And so it was really my reputation that helped bring forth success and funding. So definitely don't think that that's a small thing to consider. The second one, I would say positive attitude. If you are starting your own company, you are a leader. You're already a leader in your world in some way, whether you're a sister, a brother, a wife, a husband, you're already a leader on some level. But when you start a company, that elevates even higher. And I think positive attitude is what it makes solutions easier to come up with. And at the same time, with a team, you want to keep them inspired as well. And so I think positive mindset is a huge element. The third is communication. I would say communication is just absolutely vital. So you really want to make sure that you are working on your communication skills. And I know it sounds small, but definitely listen to podcasts about communication, because it's not just talking. It's how you listen, how you respond. It's verbal, it's written, it's body language. Communication is multifaceted. So that one is definitely a top contender. Then I would say critical thinking. Critical thinking is your ability to think through, why am I doing this? So if you're learning a new job, instead of just saying, okay, I'll do it because I was told, try to understand the process behind it. And so that will help your mind stay on top of things. And if something doesn't work out, you won't be confused. You'll know the process, so you'll know better how to find a solution. And the last one I mentioned just a few minutes ago, but teamwork. Mm-hmm. Find the right people, bring them in, find the right people to ask questions, because that you can't do it all on your own. And I think I'm someone that always tries, but you just humanly cannot do that. So find the right team members, find the right advisors, and know that it's the teamwork that's going to bring success. So those are the 5.
Absolutely. And this team can be sitting just beside your toolbox for times of stress. So let's imagine the pandemic is over and you can invite any person in the world to go and have a private breakfast anywhere in the world. Who would you invite and where would you go to?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I didn't realize. So anywhere in the world I can go? My place?
Absolutely. Yes, go for it.
Okay. I remember, I know you asked this question on your interview sometimes, but I thought, well, what's near me? But I like the imagination. So
good.
I'm going to think through that one. But the person I would invite, I think the stage I'm at right now, being a founder, being a female founder, sometimes it can be hard to find role models or mentors. And one of the people that I really do look up to is Jamie Kern-Lima. She's the founder of It Cosmetics. And I've seen her on social media, her interviews. I read her book. And I just love the type of founder she is. She leads with kindness, with compassion, but she's a strong leader. She sold her company for over $1 billion. And to this day, she's just still inspiring other women and having important conversations. And so I would love to meet with her. I actually have her book right here. So this is Jamie Kern-Lima. Her book is Believe It. But I absolutely love the book. I think it's so relatable for anyone, female or male, that wants to start a journey and they have never done anything like that. She's just so inspiring. She's all about conviction, hard work, perseverance. And so I would just love to have, a few hours with her. And I would go to Paris. I would go to a cafe in Paris. Yep.
Okay. Any particular one or just?
No, I've never been to Paris. So I would have to probably look and see what but if anyone has suggestions, please let us know.
Absolutely. Well, I have to ask my husband because that's the first time we went to Paris for a special birthday for me. And yes, and I was quite disappointed because I prefer Rome. So there you go.
Okay, I feel that. Yeah, I love Rome. I have been to Rome. Absolutely incredible, but Paris would be on the list. So I'll take Jamie to Paris. We can share an experience.
Absolutely, that's great. Well, I hope Jamie will be ecstatic about this prospect. So I wish you to have this lovely private breakfast with Jamie.
Thank you. I laugh, Beata. I laugh because I follow her on Instagram. So sometimes in comments, I'll be like, let's hang out. I know she gets all the comments, but I'm like, great message. I would love to meet you. And I'm dropping those hints in her social media. So one day.
There you go. And now we are going to also chase her and be a stalker on our social media. So it's going to be double whammy. It's definitely going to be mentioned. Olga Vasina is suggesting a place. Ooh, there you go.
Thank you, Olga. Olga, if you're Russian, spasiba.
Большое спасибо, Olga Vasina. That's очень прекрасно.
Очень прекрасно.
Très bien.
Yes.
Yes, let's mix in some languages here. You as a female from Ukraine,
Mhm.
and I'm sorry for this last minute question, but I'm wondering how was it for you because you moved when you were
5
45,
at
quite
5 years
young.
old.
So
Mhm.
was there any moment in life when you felt like, oh, maybe I would be better off being uh, brought up here? I mean, you moved, you had to learn the language.
Mhm. Yeah, that's I feel like I did grow up here, but what's interesting is for any person that, came from another country, your upbringing with public school systems and healthcare, it is brought up, if you're in the US American, but your home life and for us, church or community, it was very much so Russian culture. So I did have a way of division, I think, in terms of identity where when you're younger, you can kind of struggle with, well, where do I fit in? At home, I'm this and I speak this language and I do these things and I eat this food. But when I'm with my friends, it's a whole other version of life. And so I do think that when you're young, it's a little bit more of a struggle. But what I will say is it is such a strength. You learn how to communicate with people from different cultures and backgrounds. You find commonalities with anyone you meet. And I feel like that's something that I was able to learn from how do I connect with, this Russian stoic dad or how do
Hmm.
I how do I interact with now this stranger maybe from Africa or India? And I know when my parents are interacting in this country, what they like, what kindness or what communication things they like. So for me, I'm able to carry that forward with new people that I meet. It's all about being present. It's all about being kind. And if you do interact with people from another country, don't yell at them like they're deaf or talk too slow, but don't talk too fast. But be nice, be pleasant, and yeah, just make them feel human.
Yeah, build your reputation through being kind and taking deep breaths. And definitely, there is lots to learn from Vladlena. Thank you so much for this lovely positivity hack delivered. And that's it from episode 37 of the PhD live stream. Thank you so much, Vladlena. To stay updated and ensure you never miss positivity hack delivered, follow us on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever, whichever platform you like. And I hope, Vladlena, you're going to have a lovely private breakfast. We are going to definitely mention that on our social media streams. And let's remember, tell people and they may forget, show them, they may remember, but involve them and they will understand. That's definitely a mantra from Vladlena because her investors are full family and friends, and they are supporting her startup in the uh, critical role of investors. When you focus on the positives get more positive. I would like to thank our lovely audience, Olga Vasina, Marianne Madera, Trixie Lopez, IPO Vit, In Love and in Pain, and I would like to see you next week with our lovely Ola Kudish, Alexandra Kudish, who's actually been with me on some journey with Geek Girls Carrots, Women in Tech in Poland, that was started in Poland but went global. And she's going to talk about her newest book, but also about how to build a very good quality code. Well, coming back to the positives, as always, our positive quote comes from Positive Thinking Only and goes, look for something positive in each day, even if some days you have to look a little harder. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude, as Maya Angelou says. Today is your day to hack the future, hack the positivity you want. Thank you.